am so grateful that you have taken time out to share your time with us. Before I introduce our very, very special guest, let me remind you that WCEG Network is a nonprofit community radio station. Actually, it's a global radio station because we are your worldwide community empowerment group. So you can go to www.wcegtalkradio.com to find our contact info in case you are interested in investing in a worthy cause. Go ahead and think about WCEG Network, and we will be so grateful to hear from you and receive your gifts. Right now, I want to introduce to everybody Dr. Metcalfe. Thank you, Dr. Scott Metcalfe, for being a part of our show on today. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being a part. Can you go ahead and tell our listeners who may not be familiar with you a little bit about yourself that you want them to know?
Oh, well, my name is Dr. Walter Scott Metcalfe. I'm a family physician. I'm in the Atlanta area. I've been here about 16 years now. I'm a transplant from the cold weather, Michigan, and I really enjoy the weather down here. I'm the proud father of 3 beautiful children. I have a lovely wife, Dr. Contessa Metcalfe, who we've been married for 16 years as well. She actually dragged me down here from the cold weather, and she was a flight surgeon in the Navy. So she was fortunately given an assignment here in Atlanta, and we came down to Atlanta and fell in love with Atlanta, and we've been here ever since.
Well, thank you for staying. I'm sure you're an addition, a great and worthy addition to the community here. We want to go ahead and get into the meat of our conversation, whether or not we should go ahead and take the COVID vaccine. What are your thoughts about that? Because so many people are kind of up in the air about it.
Well, Pastor, since you said we need to get right into the meat of the conversation and we're going straight in, I'm coming straight in with my opinion, and I'm sure it's supported by the majority of physicians across the United States, and that is we are in a pandemic. A pandemic, which means that we have an epidemic that's going around this country that is causing a lot of unnecessary deaths. And therefore, with being in a pandemic, the only way that we're going to get out of this pandemic, just like the flu virus of the early 1900s, is to get a vaccination. And so my thoughts are yes for the vaccinations, and I can come with my support for it in terms of we have to think about right now the number one killer in the number one cause of deaths each year in the United States is usually heart disease and stroke, right? And that's usually followed up by lung disease and lung cancer for number 2. So that's usually like 650,000, then about 500,000. Now, in less than a year, coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2 has killed over 400,000 people in the United States, which makes it in less than 1 year the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. So we are definitely in a pandemic when something that didn't exist or was not prevalent 2 years ago has become the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. Now, the flu virus, how we all have heard people say, it's just the normal flu. It's just the flu. 99% of people are going to survive it and do well. Well, what about the other 1%? 1% is the large amount. Even if it's 0.1%, just say if it's only 1 out of 1,000, we're talking about we live in hundreds of millions, billions of people. 0.1%, that's still, that would be 1 million people. So that's a lot of people that are unnecessarily succumbing to this illness, and we definitely have to fight it. And our best mode of defense is, of course, to have a healthy immune system. But our second best and our most protective is going to be the implementation of the vaccine.
All right, you said what we needed to hear. 1, a healthy immune system. What can we do immediately to boost that?
Okay, immediately to boost our immune system. We know for sure that there are a few supplements that have been shown to be clinically and symptomatically effective with boosting our immune system and protection against COVID-19, as well as when being implemented in the treatment plans, along with the different treatments that hospitals are using now, the approved treatments. And that would be high dose vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D3, specific vitamin D3, not just the regular vitamin D. There's another medication called Q-Certain. And also, believe it or not, melatonin has been used in certain trials. So one, these things are boosting your immune system. We know vitamin D3 may be the most important because it is proven to be heart protective, immunosuppressant, immune system protective, and it's also good for our hair and nails and our skin. And we know in order to get the active form of vitamin D, we also need to take calcium with it, and we need as much sunlight as we possibly can get, direct sunlight, just to have that converted into active vitamin D3 that's protective or immunoprotective for us.
Awesome. That everybody stock up your vitamin cabinets now. Work on it, because it's hard to find vitamin C. I've been looking for some, so I have some of that emergency right now, but the regular vitamin C tabs, I think everybody's kind of hip on that because it's hard to find. But keep searching, also, keep searching.
Yep, and you may also see vitamin C labeled as ascorbic acid. You know, that's vitamin C as well, and so there are multiple names for it. And we can talk about where we can get different vitamins at the end, if you wouldn't mind, because I've done a ton of research on vitamins, and it's disheartening to find out that a lot of our vitamins are not local, and that a lot of our vitamins that we get from our vitamin stores that we typically think are the cream of the crop are importing our vitamins from China, where we don't know if they even test and I've done a ton of research on it, but we could definitely talk about that later. But you want to make sure that you have some good organic vitamins. I mean, they don't have to be super expensive, and sometimes even a cheap version can be a good version. But we just need to make sure that the vitamins are coming from an organic soil, that our vitamins are not containing any, from any GMO types sources, and that they're from an environment that's regulated.
Oh, thank you. So what about our food intake? Because we, especially us African Americans, and I'm quite sure history has dictated our eating habits, although great evolution is occurring within our communities, but we don't always eat healthy. And McDonald's is quick, Burger King, all of that stuff. And it's okay every now and then, but not on a regular basis. Your thoughts?
Right. I mean, eating unhealthy is just so easy to eat unhealthy, and it's so convenient to eat unhealthy. If you go to a local store and you can see that you can get, 3 apples may cost you $4 or $5 now, whereas you can get 3 Snickers for $2. So it's easy to pick the unhealthy choices, and not to mention, a lot of our communities are in what we call food deserts areas. They don't have the fresh produce, they don't have the fresh fruits and vegetables that are they can walk right to the corner store or drive 2 minutes to get there. A lot of our communities are in what we consider across the U.S. food deserts now. So access to healthy foods are not as prevalent. We have the canned goods and the processed foods, and anything that lives in a box and can stay on the shelf for as long as we live is probably not good for us. We really need to think about that. I mean, it's preserved, so if it can live in a can, an aluminum can, or stay fresh in an aluminum can for so long, it's probably just not good to put in our body. So we need to make healthy choices, eat our fresh fruits and vegetables. And I know even economically, if you can't afford it, you can still make better choices in terms of our food. We can go towards the produce. We can just learn to supplement more fresh vegetables, and we can make the meat portion of our diet the smallest portion instead of the largest portion. So the food pyramid, you know, Michelle Obama, I love when she turned the food pyramid upside down while she was in office. That was great because it showed us that meat doesn't have to be our main course. Our main course can be our healthy portion of vegetables, you know, and then possibly a healthy source of carbohydrates and fluids, which means water. Our body is made up, you know, the majority of our body is made up of water. And we know that water has its natural cleansing, its natural healing. It gives us beautiful skin. And so those are some of the things we want to make sure that we implement to our diet. Just fresh fruits and vegetables. Don't overcook our vegetables. Don't add a lot of salt to your vegetables. You know, I always recommend finding a good, you know, I'm a Mrs. Dash fan, you know, because you can find some good spices that can bring out the flavor in your vegetables. And sometimes I learned a beautiful thing. I sliced up carrots and zucchini really thin and baked them in the oven and made some chips out of them. Like, not really chips, but they were so delicious. And so my wife and I, we just tried, you know, we try to do a meatless Monday to just kind of make sure, because a plant-based diet is the healthy-based diet. We know that lifestyle medicine is you are what you eat, and food is medicine.
Thank you for that. I'm in process of changing my own diet, and not always successful, but I'm getting there. So
that's it. Hey, it's like we're all food addicts, and we just have to keep going through rehab, and we can relapse and recover, and we all gonna make unhealthy decisions, because I mean that's the beauty, and that's the addictiveness of sugar. One, we can talk about the addictiveness of sugar because it's just delicious. It makes everything taste good. So we got to just kind of put ourselves in that mindset of saying, okay, I'm not eating sugar all this week. I'm gonna eat fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm gonna eat fresh fruits this week. No drinks. I think the easiest thing to do is to cut out the soft drinks initially, because you're getting a boatload of sugar. You're getting unnecessary caffeine at times, and that is probably 40% of the reason for our obesity epidemic is the high processed fructose corn syrup, and that's placed in our foods and our beverages now.
You helped me to remember a few people who have gotten off of soft drinks, and I noticed that they lose on average 15 pounds.
Yes.
And so that shows us how much sugar is in those drinks. And then some people, they lose that similar type of weight if they drink alcohol, because alcohol also has a lot of sugar and people aren't aware of that. So those of you trying to lose weight, those are two ways you can start. But getting to the fears within the nation, those who are kind of resistant about taking the COVID shot, I hear certain conversations. One of them says, how is it that they can find a vaccine so fast against COVID, but they still haven't found a cure for cancer?
Right.
Okay.
That's another almost not a myth, but that's another statement that I love to debate. So let's talk about cancer. Cancer has what we call a survival rate for a lot of cancers, right? There are a lot of cancers that are now treatable with the advances in medical technology. So in the 1960s, childhood leukemia would kill over 80% of the children that contracted like ALL, or acute lymphocytic leukemia. With the advances in technology and science over the years, only 20% of children, or less, are now dying of cancer. So we can't say that we haven't found a cure. That's why we hear when people say I'm 5 years free of breast cancer. That's a cure. When people have 10 years of breast cancer, they've had chemotherapy and radiation and surgery that's worked. That is a cure. And there continues to be advances in technology. Now, And then let's think about when they say they haven't found a cure for AIDS. They haven't found a cure for AIDS, and how can they find this cure for coronavirus right now? Well, one, this is the new technology, is the mRNA technology that they're using. And what they did was they took a spike protein off of the coronavirus, which has about 27 spike proteins on the surface of the mouth of the virus, correct? So they took one of those spike proteins and kind of made a dummy virus, and from which they made the vaccine of. And the beautiful thing about this is when people get the vaccine, they're not getting, like the flu shot, either an active or killed virus, the actual flu virus or killed virus. They're getting a replica. So your body, once again, your cells, this does not go into your DNA. These proteins are recognized, they're processed, and your body automatically forms what we call memory cells and fighter cells. So that's how you form the immunity to it. So it's great science. It's not brand new. I'm sure the developers now who've been working over it for over 20 years will they should be, getting Pulitzer Prize or one of those honors, distinguished honors, really soon. But it's not new. Also, remember a few years back when the Zika virus was around, and the Zika virus was so dangerous and was, oh my God, it's going to pregnant women better not get it because it's going to cause birth defects in the children. Guess what? The Zika virus vaccination is an mRNA technology, and it worked. We haven't heard anything about the Zika virus lately, have we? So we have to dispel the myths that, how could they think of this so fast? Science is always evolving, so, and with that, it's just like technology. 20, 30 years ago, I would have to call you and I'd say, Miss McClure, are you home? I'd have to leave a message on your voicemail, or I could take me a week to call you and catch you. Now I can catch you in 20 seconds by just pushing your number on a cell phone. It's technology, people, and that's the beauty of it, and thank God that he gives us and our scientists the knowledge, and our engineers the knowledge to advance technology and to use it, hopefully, to help for the betterment of our people.
I love how you say God gives scientists and the medical community the wherewithal, the knowledge, the intuitiveness to continue to advance technology, because all knowledge comes from God. And I want to bring that point out because so many people feel like, well, if I'm going to get coronavirus, then I'm going to get it. Or if I'm going to get healed from it, I'm just going to get healed from it. And I don't necessarily have to do anything to protect myself against it. The point I'm trying to bring out, all healing, all knowledge comes from God, whether you go to the doctor or not, whether you try to protect yourself or not. It comes from God. Everything comes from God. We got to start with that. And then it just filters out into the various formats that we know it as. Okay. So for those who don't still want to protect themselves by washing their hands, they should be washing their hands anyway. Watching their distance, because people are starting to get a little relaxed in the stores. I even find myself having to remind myself, what am I doing? I need to step back. And then wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance. Can you re-emphasize those points, the stuff that we can do before we connect with the medical community or the scientists to do better?
Yes, just simple things. And the simple things will be hand washing, hand sanitizer. I strictly recommend hand sanitizer when you enter and exit a building. That decreases the risk of everyone. When you enter and exit the bathroom, even after you wash your hands, hand sanitizer, wearing your mask, because wearing your mask is going to protect you as well as whoever you're coming in contact with. So if two people have on masks, that the risk of exchanging any aerosolized virus has decreased substantially, 90%. For the new variants of the COVID-19, when you hear about the new one, the South African strain, and different strains that have been shown to be they're not more devastating, but they're more highly contagious. So they're just saying it's easier to catch it. It's not killing people more, but it's actually easier to catch these strains because maybe the aerosolized particles are smaller. And that has recommended that we wear 2 masks at certain times. If you've seen the new CDC guidelines. But our main thing, I mean, as much as we can do to prevent it, hand washing, wearing our mask, and social distancing, just cut out all the unnecessary socializing that we do, specifically if one coming from our communities where we usually come from a close-knit community, we come from households with multiple generations in the same household. We can't think about I'm young, I'm healthy, and I can go out and do as I please, and if I catch coronavirus, it's just going to be a quick virus, I'll get over it. We have to think about our loved ones. We have to think about our children. We have to think about an infant child or a young child who we didn't know because they've never been diagnosed with asthma as of yet, or our elderly parents who may have a chronic illness such as diabetes or obesity, or some type of immune suppressive disease that can increase their risk of succumbing to coronavirus death. So we have to not be selfish. I think that's our main thing. And just like when you see our people, not our people, but when you see the anti-maskers in the stores, they're not thinking about their loved ones. They're not thinking about the other person. They just have those selfish thoughts in which they're saying, I'm not going to wear a mask because, it doesn't hurt anyone to wear a mask. If we would have all wore masks and social distance for about 2 to 3 weeks when this pandemic first started, I would be amazed to see. I think the outcome would have been so much better, as opposed to us saying, okay, we're nearly 500,000 deaths now in a year.
I totally agree with that, because we fail to realize or remember that even when we talk, spit or spittle is coming out of our mouths. Even with people blowing on birthday cakes, like last week, my husband had his birthday, and we had this huge cake for him, but we had to remind him, you cannot blow on this cake. Yep. Spit comes out anyway. So just imagine in today's time, so just the regular talking, the regular everyday today conversations that we have, our masks are stopping that from getting to the person we're speaking with.
Right.
And so like you said, the anti-maskers, I don't think they're aware that this is happening, but if you stand to the side of any individual, you can see it coming out.
Mm-hmm. And we also have to, the virus is transmitted through mucous membranes. We have mucous membranes in our mouth. We have mucous membranes in our nose. We also have mucous membranes in our eyes. So you can get the virus because if those particles are floating in the air and they're floating in your eyes, that's a mucous membrane. It absorbs. So it can absorb the virus, and the virus can enter your body through your eyes, your nose, your mouth. And wearing a mask will prevent those particles from entering the eyes.
Wow. So we have to be mindful. Everybody stop being selfish.
That's it.
It's about you and your loved ones, not just about you.
Correct.
So, and that's the thing, like you said, they're being selfish by not taking the necessary health precautions, like putting on a mask, washing your hands. And I like how you emphasize putting on the hand sanitizer even after you have washed your hands. I needed that one for myself, because I'm like, I washed my hands, I'm feeling clean. So that, I guess, the hand sanitizer gives us that extra boost.
Just the extra precaution, It's kind of like going out and putting on a scarf with your jacket on a windy day. That's the way I look at it.
Awesome. Now, when we take the shot, the COVID shot, what is it doing to our bodies?
Okay, so just like any shot, any vaccination, it is foreign. So your body's going to recognize it as foreign, or it wouldn't work. Different reactions are different, but normal you can experience pain at the injection site, correct? and that can last for a few days. You can have a mild fever. That's just your body's natural. It depends on you and your body and how your body mounts an immune response. So you can get fever. Sometimes you can get a whole viral syndrome. You can get a mild fever, backaches, chills. One thing you should not get is a complete flu, because it's not a true virus that's been killed or diluted when you get the coronavirus vaccination. So you shouldn't get the sniffles, but you shouldn't get the cough. You shouldn't lose your taste. You shouldn't lose your smell. All those signs that of a true coronavirus infection. You should only have the fever, maybe a little bit of arm pain. Sometimes your body can mount some muscular pain, and as we've seen a few people, and we don't know the reason why, but there's been a small percentage of people that have had severe allergic reactions to it, and those have not been accounted for. Of what we don't know what causes it, because we know all the ingredients in it, but unfortunately we have had about 4 fatalities from it that I've known so far.
Okay, so thank you for being real with those details there, because I'm quite sure other people have had reactions to other shots that are designed to help us, and they also lost their lives in the process.
Right. And people, I know people who always say, I don't get the flu shot because it gives me a flu symptoms, because the flu shot is a killed or live virus, or a diluted virus, or a killed virus. And your body can mount those symptoms of having a small flu. But the coronavirus, no one has developed SARS-CoV-2, which is the severe acute respiratory disease or distress, or the pneumonia, from getting the vaccine. And that's the SARS-2 is what is putting people on ventilators and respirators and causing a high number of deaths related to this pandemic.
Okay, we have a question that has come in. How can someone who has been in total isolation, masking, washing their hands, etc., still get the virus?
Well, the only way we know that you can get the virus is to come in contact with someone who has had the virus. And unfortunately, nothing's 100% proof. Just think, if I put my hands on this desk and I rub my eyes like that, I can give myself coronavirus if that surface was contaminated. So nothing's 100%. So you can isolate, but I'm sure if someone has been isolated there's no way to be completely isolated. Even if you get bottled water distributed from the store, there's always a risk of it. So that's why we want to take as many precautions as we can to prevent it. But if someone gets it, then they were exposed to it, and that's pretty much it. And I also want to add that getting the vaccine does not prevent you. So if you get the vaccine and then you're exposed to someone that has had if you're exposed to someone with active coronavirus, or if you're exposed to the virus, you're still going to become infected with the virus. The vaccine does not prevent you from becoming infected with the coronavirus. It actually protects you from developing the severe acute respiratory distress that can be associated with SARS-CoV-2. So we need to educate our people on that, because you can still test positive for the virus after you've had the vaccine if you're exposed to the virus. But the vaccine is to decrease the amount of adverse effects of being exposed.
So it's, in other words, to give you a fighting chance against.
Correct. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So, because I've been hearing just even within the last week and a half of 4 deaths of coronavirus, and 3 came out of Griffin, Georgia. So I'm like, I'm not going in that direction anytime soon. But we have to be mindful of what's going on in our communities as well, and the activity rate of the virus.
Sorry, you said activity rate of the virus?
Yes, like
yeah,
for example.
Yeah, we do. We have to be mindful, and we have to continue to social distance, and because the best defense is going to be the amount of people who are immune to the virus. That way we can decrease the transmission rate. And once we decrease the transmission rate and so many people have the vaccine, or so many people have already had coronavirus that are doing well from it, that's when the concept of herd immunity comes in, because the whole herd has now had it, and there's a decreased risk of just from it being an ongoing pandemic.
Like the flu in previous years, the measles, so on and so forth?
Correct. And for people, and for people that think vaccines are for people who don't like vaccines, perfect example is the polio virus. When the polio virus was mandated to become a vaccine that we started administering at birth, we eradicated polio for how many years, until about in the late 90s, where a small community in New York decided to stop vaccinating their children for polio. And then what happened? Polio made a comeback.
Right. I remember hearing that and thinking, wasn't that like stopped somewhere in the past?
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple more questions bouncing back to how can a person isolate themselves and still get the virus? Does it live on surfaces like it was originally believed? And is it airborne?
It's not airborne, but aerosolized, which means airborne would just be like if we're outside and it's floating in the wind like dust. So aerosolized would be like, I always think of like, I don't want Febreze to get after me, but like when you spray Febreze in your house, you see the little aerosolized particles. That's aerosolized. So you get the small particles that float and then dissipate and drop down to the ground. Or disappear. So there's a difference between airborne and aerosolized. So just remember, like spraying a little pump of Febreze through your house, that's like aerosolized. Airborne is just the air we breathe in, and you can't. Coronavirus has not been proven to be airborne. Now, living on surfaces, if you check the CDC, it still will tell you that it can live on hard and plastic surfaces for 2 hours up to 24 hours, and different surfaces. I can't tell you the exact times, but yes, some certain surfaces it can live on. So it can live on a shelf. If someone with coronavirus is walking through the grocery store and they cough on something, touch something with their hands, even if they touch a bag of chips, and you go buy that bag of chips, it can live on that bag of chips for a few hours. So I mean, the transmission, like it's contagious. So there is a transmission, and so that means with the transmission rate being certainly high, if you touch that surface that someone with the active infection has touched, you can catch it. But it's not floating around in the air.
Okay. So getting back to the vaccine, are you saying that people should not get too comfortable after having the vaccine?
Correct, because we shouldn't. We still going to have to social distance. We're still going to have to wear our mask. The vaccine is just hopefully preventing us from catching SARS-CoV-2 and having a poor or bad outcome. So you can have the vaccine and you can be exposed to COVID and you can still spread it. Correct. So we're just trying to protect. So the vaccine is to protect, it's to save lives, and we still have to continue what we're doing. We have to continue social distancing. We have to continue wearing a mask. We have to continue strict hand washing and use of antibiotic gel, until we get this enough vaccines distributed, and until we get this herd immunity, which may not come as fast as the vaccines will allow us to become immune to it.
So everyone has a personal responsibility in this thing called COVID.
Yeah, we do, and we don't know how long we're in it for. So, and we also have to let people know that probably have to get the vaccine at least every year for the next few years, because the vaccine only shows passive immunity, and so that's 8 to 12 months. So there's a possibility that we all may be getting the coronavirus vaccine, once at least once a year for the next 2 to 3 years is what's estimated.
Until we can get a better hold of it, you think similar to like
Correct.
how,
Mhm.
okay, cool. I was wondering about that one myself. I haven't had it yet, but I plan to. I'm assuming you and your family have, or you and your wife, since you're doctors.
Yeah, physicians, we get our first, we've been offered our vaccination first before, because we're in high risk, healthcare workers, patients that are over 65 or anyone that has an immune disorder, the vaccine is definitely available to them.
Awesome. And we should refer regularly back to the CDC website for updates on the latest discoveries about where we are.
Yes, always. I mean, CDC is, the CDC is not backed by any big pharma companies. The CDC is, they're for us. I kind of think of the CDC like our CNN. They are for the people, and there is no company that's straying their opinion. They just typically give the facts, and they update the facts daily and weekly right on the internet. We can search and we can look at the number of cases. We can look at the number of cases per state. We can look at the death rate. They'll show you the adverse effects. They show you the pros and cons. They show you all the good things about the vaccine, the bad things that may have happened with the vaccine. And the beautiful part about this, it is a choice. Getting this vaccine is your choice. It's not anything that's being forced upon you. And I can guarantee you, when companies make a vaccine, to dispel the biggest myth that I've been hearing lately, and even with family members, is, oh, I want to go to a different neighborhood or a different zip code to get my vaccine. Why? They're shipping these vaccines out, and they don't have one label: Black community, Hispanic community, affluent community. They don't have that. So that's one of the biggest myths going around now. And I know some people have a mistrust for anything, or specifically healthcare with African Americans. But we have to we can rest assured that there is no vaccine that has a stamp on it that says deliver this to the Black community.
Okay, you're getting into some sensitive areas here. I remember when people first began to get tested, and I heard how we weren't in our African American communities in the Atlanta area, and I'm quite sure that was across the nation. We weren't always getting tested like we needed to. But we found that some of our less melanated communities kept coming into our neighborhoods to get tested. And I thought that should have been a clue to us that we really need to pay attention to what is actually happening right around us, because if they're driving 50 or 60 miles just to get the test, why can't we just go 2-3 miles over and get it done ourselves? Or what's in our mindsets that's preventing us to do that? And one of the myths I found, and I know you hear this one all the time in the medical community, if I don't know about it, then it can't hurt me.
That's true. That's true. I mean, ignore that. Ignore that. That growth on your arm until it falls off. That's unfortunately what our community does. And remember, they're also traveling to our community now to get the vaccine.
On top of that.
Yeah. So like, if our lines aren't long, their lines are long. They're people are traveling from any community and attempting to get this vaccine as fast as possible.
So 1 + 1 still equals 2, the simple things.
That's true.
So how do we address these particular issues, getting COVID, being COVID alert with our younger generations? Because so many of them do not pay attention to the news. I don't know what it is, but they communicate amongst themselves. But what can we do as communities or older generations? I hate to say it like that, but it's true. To get that information out to our young people, because they're not taking this as serious as they need to.
I think anyone that has a face in the community, such as yourself, myself, anyone that's in the entertainment industry that has been educated on the coronavirus and that cares about our communities as a whole, we just have to make our presence stronger and make our presence felt and have to be more available for discussions like we're having today. And our social media, our younger generation, I'm sure they use social media a lot more than they watch the news or read the newspaper. So we have to be more diligent with posting on social media and trying to just reach out and connect. So we reach out and connect with our friends. I love what the NBA has been doing. A lot of our athletes that are pro-vaccination. They have their followers and they educate their followers and they do like we're doing. They may get on social media and go live for a while just to dispel some myths. And specifically, young African-American physicians, we only make up 5% of the doctors, whereas the African Americans make up 19% of the population now. So we have to make ourselves more available to our community, and that is, doing what we're doing now. We're reaching out. And we hope that some parents that are watching this are going to show some excerpts to their kids. And I'm going to let my kids watch it a little bit afterwards as well. And that's what we do. It's more each one teach one, each one reach one. And let's get in this struggle and let's continue to fight together.
Thank you for that. So we also need to be a little bit more aggressive about finding out how they communicate and get into their communities, infiltrate their communities, not only with the information, but be sincere. Find out what they're talking about, understand their conversations. That should be a given. So, but they have to, I like how you mentioned earlier, they can't think I'm young, I'm strong, I got a strong immune system, all of this. No, we still have to find a way to connect with them. We are getting near the close of our interview. It's going really super fast. You said something about organic vitamins, your studies, your research on vitamins. Can you go ahead and get that in there?
Yeah, well, a lot of our vitamins, as I said earlier, are imported, and unfortunately, when our vitamins are imported, the FDA does not regulate the specifics of it, of the vitamins. So a lot of vitamins, even though the FDA allows a certain, just say there's a certain guideline they have to follow, I found that more vitamins that we can find locally are more potent or have less unnecessary ingredients in them as far as preservatives. And typically the good thing about vitamins is that your body takes what it needs and it excretes it. So that's right after you take it. So that's why when people take vitamins, your urine is discolored. It's going to be green or more yellow or orange. And that's just your body's natural way of saying, okay, I don't need these food colorants in it. I don't need, this higher dose that's in this. I don't need it. So your body, being a wonderful body and the way that God has made the design, it gets rid of things that it doesn't like. But my wife, myself, and a chef, we've gotten together and we've accumulated a good source of vitamins, and it's called Halt Doc Nutraceuticals, HAUTE _doc, and that you can search those, and we have the necessary vitamins that are beneficial, that we as physicians have chosen right now to be beneficial, and we put those out on a website called Halt Doc Nutraceuticals. So it's like Halt, HAUTE doc US, and you can find those on the web, and you can go pick out the antiviral, the immune boosters, and I do weight loss medicine as well, and some integrative medicine. I'm a family medicine physician, and but part of my practice, I like to do preventative medicine, and preventative medicine now we know is, and fortunately, not unfortunately, but healthy lifestyle now. Whenever you have insurance companies paying for bariatric surgeries for people that are obese, and that was a no-no in the past. They would never pay for it. They would literally now pay for bariatric surgery in a patient who's obese, because they know that obesity, number one cause of diabetes, number one cause of heart disease and stroke. And we know that that is over 80% of the hospitalizations for which insurance companies are paying for. And they're thinking about it on a money side. They're not thinking about, I mean, I'm sure that insurance companies at the bottom line want you to be healthy, but if insurance companies can prevent 40% of diabetes, 40% of heart disease, and save 40% of hospitalizations, hospitalizations are $2,000 a day minimum. So they pay for bariatric surgery. So we're saying, okay, let's before people have to choose surgery as a weight loss option, let's choose healthy lifestyle. Let's choose diet. Let's talk to a nutritionist. If we need to, let's get on medications that can curb your appetite, and increase your metabolism. Let's talk about, vitamin B12 injections or apolipoprotein B injections that can kind of boost your metabolism and stimulate your weight loss as well, and decrease the risk of obesity, that's our number one killer.
Okay, I need those vitamins. Also, thank you for that. We have a couple of more questions. Shouldn't our community typically have trust issues with the government? Can you touch on that real briefly? The government impact?
Yeah, we can talk about that when we speak of healthcare disparities. And we know that the basic mistrust of our community comes from the Tuskegee experiment. And that is the experiment in which Black males who had contracted syphilis, or what we known back then, what they only knew back then as bad blood, were refused treatment for a course of over almost 40 years as an experiment that was conducted and backed by the U.S. government. And unfortunately, it shows the atrocities that have been, that was basically genocide committed against our community in that aspect of refusing treatment, and to the fact of it was so bad. Well, I did a lot of research on it. It was so bad that these males that were in Tuskegee who had syphilis and who were banned by the health department, federal government, to receive treatment to see how the disease progressed. They even put these males' name on the do not draft list for the Vietnam War, because they knew once you entered the military service, you would be tested and treated. So, I mean, it was a big conspiracy, and I can see how that leads to mistrust. And not to mention that, if those males were infected, those males' sexual partners or wives were infected, and the children who were born to those were affected as well. So we have a mistrust. That mistrust will be there, but that was for a Tuskegee experiment. This vaccine is not an experiment. This vaccine is voluntary. This is not mandatory. They're not sneaking this vaccine on you. And guess what? There's no nanotechnology that can be placed in this vaccine, because I don't think a vial that we shake up can have little chips, microchips in it that can be traced throughout your blood. It's kind of not possible yet, guys. And so let's dispel that myth. And once again, our communities, we have healthcare disparities. We have lack of healthcare. We have lack of insurance. We have lack of accessibility. And as I said earlier, we have 5% of the physicians are African American, whereas nearly 19% of our population is African American. So not all African Americans are seeing African American physician. So those are some of the things that kind of help keep those myths going. But we just have to educate. Just continue to educate, and people should just realize there's a difference between an experiment and a pandemic.
Thank you for that. Sounds like you have a wealth of information you want to get out to our community. So I hope we can do this again in the future.
Sounds like, hey, I love educating. I love educating. So we definitely, I thank you for having me. But we definitely want to continue educating our public and our people.
Okay, couple of quick questions. Are you taking new patients?
Currently, I am not taking new patients. And the reason is my wife and I did open up a new practice, and it is in the final stages of development. It's called Chastain Integrative Medicine. So if you Google Chastain Integrative Medicine, you will see when the clinic is open and our patient policy. And we do independent contracting for the VA, and so we've been kind of doing trying to take care of our nation's heroes, you know, because we know there's been a shortage in the VA of healthcare and evaluation. So we've kind of dedicated a lot of our time to that. And my wife is a service-connected disabled veteran as well, so that's definitely her passion, and her additional passion is helping with addiction and addiction medicine. So we're kind of just carving out our niches in it, and sometimes with chronic care and patient care, we, you know, that can be very time consuming, but we are promoting preventative medicine and healthy lifestyle.
Awesome, awesome. And another question: why aren't children impacted as much by the virus as adults? Getting back to that.
That is probably one of the best questions, because we don't scientifically know the answer. But, you know, I mean, they say children and adults ages 25 to 45 have a very low bad outcome. So it's not only children, it's healthy adults as well. But the only thing is children are less to have chronic illness, correct? Because they, you know, we typically don't have kids who have been having, you know, they haven't been eating unhealthy or living an unhealthy lifestyle or smoking for 20 years. So we know that those lungs are good. Those lungs still have those little what we call cilia that can expel things out. They can clear their lungs good. So children are less toxic. Let's just put it that way, easier. Our body, we have been more toxic to our bodies over years. Children typically, you know, have not drank a lot of alcohol or abused alcohol, or, you know, their organs are more healthy. They're pure. You know, it's kind of like looking at the whites of their eyes. You know, we can all look at our eyes and tell that we've aged some, whereas you look at a child's eyes and they're bright and white and healthy. Just think of it that way. They haven't been exposed to much, and their immune system is forming and is strong.
Boy, you're touching on some sensitive issues, because the other day I'm like, I gotta get my eyes back white. But anyway, as in addition to you're not taking new patients, will that be the only practice? You said you're opening another one.
Yeah.
So you're going to have two different ones. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, the Chastain Integrative Medicine practice is located in Buckhead. It's near Chastain Park, on Wyuka Road, between Roswell Road and Chastain Park. That is where we're going to be doing the functional and integrative medicine clinic. So that's where we will be accepting new patients.
Okay. And then how do we stay connected with you via social media?
I think all of my handles are Dr. Scott Metcalfe. On Facebook is probably my name, Walter Scott Metcalfe, but all of my social media is under Dr. Scott Metcalfe.
Awesome.
Dr. Scott Metcalfe, and, you know, pretty easy to just do a search and find me. And I accept all my friends on Facebook, all of them on social media.
Great, great. I had a chance to see some of your Instagram posts over the last few days, and I like how you're talking on sensitive issues. You're not talking nonsense. You're about educating, empowering people with knowledge. And so that will be a good follow, as opposed to some people following other people for entertainment purposes,
Right.
You know. Right. Because I was expecting a bit of entertainment. You don't do that. You just start, you know, you show your good times, but you're also talking on the regular about what's going on in our communities, what's going on in politics, how your followers need to be more responsible with the knowledge that they're receiving. Can briefly talk about mental health, because I know you see it in your practice.
In terms of social media, I want to always kind of make a post that my mother, rest her soul, would approve of. So I kind of just judge most of my posts like that before I push click. Now, sometimes I might go a little bit far and say maybe she would have approved of that one, but that's kind of the way I judge my social media. Being a mama's boy, I think that I would say, well, what would my mother have approved of? Would she approve of this? Would she approve of this behavior? But now, mental health is, we've been isolated. People who we have lack of access to primary care, which means we have lack of access to psychiatrists, counseling. They do have online methods, but depression has increased. The risk of suicide and the rates of suicide have increased over the last year. I think about 6% specifically with males. And we need to check on our loved ones. We need to make sure that they're just because, especially the ones that may not have social media, that may only have a telephone. We need to call them and make sure their spirits are up. Talk to them, keep them busy, keep them occupied. Let your loved ones know that they're missed and loved, and just uplift one another, because it's easy to become down and depressed when you're not socializing. I mean, socialization is part of our natural well-being. It's some of the part of the things that make us healthy. And when you have lack of access to care, lack of access to friends, that can increase your risk of being socially isolation, can increase your risk of depression. And so we want to make sure that we do our part in telling our loved ones that they're loved, that they're missed. And we do fun things, like with my family, we do a Zoom call, like a weekly, not weekly, bi-weekly Zoom call, or whenever we want to do a Zoom call, and our family gets on. We play charades. We've done a fashion show. My sister, she's the organizer of it, but we do all kind of fun things to kind of keep ourselves entertained. And it's kind of like mini family reunions on a Zoom right now. I take it down to my theater room so I can broadcast it right on the screen, and we just have a good time. My kids have a good time, and they walk around, they dance, they sing, they entertain, they read, and we just get to know one another a little bit better.
Thank you, because I've been meditating on doing a family reunion on Zoom, and thank you. I needed those little creative tips there. There was, oh Lord, I forgot my last question. Any closing? Oh, I just remembered it. How we do become depressed physically due to not eating correctly. We're not always aware of that. Can you touch on that?
Well, like I said, food is medicine. So if you feed your food junk, that's what you're going to turn into. And there are foods that can decrease your energy. Foods that that can give you a quick boost, like a sugar high, as we talk about, that ultimately can lead to weight gain, depression. So we want to eat to live. We want to eat live vegetables. We want to drink plenty of water, and we want to kind of keep our chemical balance, well balanced. There are different things in your diet that can lead to depression. There's a lot of literature you can search about diet and depression. Just do a Google search, and you'll see that certain foods can make you tired. We know that turkey has tryptophan in it, even though it's a great substitution for beef. We know that turkey can make you tired after you eat it. So it's just limitations and not doing anything in excess. And that's always my thing. Is always a well balanced thing. Not being on one extreme or the other. It's just having a well balanced diet. Not overeating, not under eating. Not eating too much. If you do choose to eat sweets, just don't eat sweets every day. Pick a day out of the week to have dessert. And I'll tell you what, you're going to enjoy it so much better.
Sounds great. Well, everyone, I want to thank you first, Dr. Scott Metcalfe, for being a part of Church Biz on today as we maintain the temple of our, which is the temple of the Holy Spirit, maintain our bodies, that is. God calls us to that point of responsibility. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and those who will be listening on our podcast. We thank you so much for the time you have invested on learning to take the COVID vaccine. Give yourself a fighting chance, and you'll be so glad that you did. Everybody take